Hi, thanks for watching. Welcome to the stream. What we're going to be talking about today is how to configure Tailwind CSS into a U project. Now, as I'll mention in the description below, this is a discussion more for advanced beginner or intermediate. I'm assuming that you already know about Rust and Cargo. Essentially all this stuff in the project setup you'll already be familiar with. We're just going to jump straight into building a sample app. I've already got the documentation that I think we'll be needing for this. The U documentation, the Tailwind documentation, and we'll probably need something from Trunk as well. So let's get straight into it and build our minimal U app that we can get our Tailwind into. So we need to create a new application first with Cargo. Cargo new, let's call it U Tailwind. And of course this just creates our standard default Hello World application. Let's get that going and make sure we've got it all installed properly. Cargo run, Hello World, excellent. So let's just move on. We've run our Hello World example. So now we need to convert this into a U web application. So the first thing to do is add the U dependency to our Cargo TOML. Okay. Then we need to add some U code to our main.rs. So we'll grab this sample app here, which is simply a counter on a web page. So we'll add that to our main file. Okay. Now, in order to run this in a web page, we'll need to package it up as a WASM binary. In order to do that, we'll be using Trunk. So Trunk will need an index.html file in order for it to operate correctly. So let's create a HTML file. Okay, so I need to add index.html. Let's call it U Tailwinds. We don't need any CSS at the moment, so we'll just trash that. Right. So in order to view our new U application, we can serve it out with Trunk. So Trunk will build our WASM package and then serve it for us, hopefully. So Trunk serve. Here's the nuisance cat from next door, if you can hear them meowing in the background. Building, and Trunk is serving our web page now here, and there it is. There's our very minimalistic calculator. Sorry, counter without a decrement button. So that's all working. So the next thing we need to do, that's basically finished with U, I think. We've created our U application. We're going to integrate Tailwind into that. But before we go ahead, I think what I want to do is trim this application down a little bit. We don't need this counter application. So what I'm going to do is just create a simple U function component, and we can call that our hello world component, which is simply a function called hello world. It doesn't take in any parameters. It's going to return us some HTML, so we can use the built-in U HTML macro, HTML, that's correct, and simply return a heading level of hello world. Close off our H1 tag. And we have an error here. That's because we got rid of model. We need to change that to the function component that we just created, which is hello world. And that has built correctly, but let's have a look and see what that looks like. Hooray, hello world. Now we'll add in some of the Tailwind CSS. So the first thing we need to do, we'll just use the Tailwind CLI. It's the simplest. We'll install Tailwind CSS. I've already got that installed on my system, so I don't need to do that. But what we do need to do is build a Tailwind config file. So let's grab that. Give myself a new window, and we'll create our Tailwind file, which now should be over here. There it is, our Tailwind config file. Pretty basic and looks like that. Then it says to configure your template paths. So we need to modify the content here of where Tailwind is going to search for its classes. Okay, so we'll just replace this line. Now this is set up for JavaScript, so it's saying to look in JS files, but we're using Rust, so we need to look in Rust files, and we also need to look in HTML files, but this is stuff that's hanging underneath the source directory. So just in case we change our or add any Tailwind to our root level index.html, which we're probably not going to do, but just for completeness sake, we maybe add that to this content key here as well. So we'll need index.html. As I said, this is probably not really necessary, but I'm just adding it in for completeness. Okay, do we expect to see anything different yet? Probably not, because we haven't actually added any Tailwind classes to anything. So the first thing we need to do is add the Tailwind directive to each of Tailwind's layers in your main CSS file. So let's create a CSS file and add this bit of code to it. They're suggesting, what was it, source.index.input.css. Let's not do that. Let's create our own directory, and we'll call that styles with input.css. And we'll put the Tailwind code in there. Okay. And now they're saying to fire up the Tailwind build process. So let's do that. However, we're not using their directory structure, we're using our own. So let's call that styles, and we'll call this styles, styles. We've got input.css, and we're expecting that to be modified into a output.css. No utility classes were detected, that's correct, we haven't written any. So if we go back here and refresh, there's our output.css that we can now use in our HTML. So they're expecting us to put a link to that style sheet in our HTML, but trunk needs a specific linking command, which is this one here. So let's go to our index.html and put that in there. However, we're not using Sass, we're using CSS, so this needs to be modified, and this needs to be styles output.css. So now we're adding the Tailwind CSS into our WASM binary. Let's see if that works. Are we expecting to see anything different? I think so, because now, yes, the basic or the default Tailwind CSS has kicked in. So great, that's working. So now let's take some additional Tailwind classes and see if we can make sure that they'll work properly. So let's go to our main.rs file and let's modify this to include some Tailwind. Okay. Okay. So what we're expecting to see is Hello World with a large font, a large bold underlined font. Okay. And da-da-da, it all works. So that's great. I'm happy that that is now our minimal U project with Tailwind built in. So I think we've achieved our goals. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the discussion, and please leave a comment below. Thank you.